On March 18, 2006, in the lawless expanse of the Indian Ocean, a small group of Somali men made an irreversible error in judgment. They were pirates, part of a burgeoning and brutal trade, and they believed they had spotted their next lucrative prize. But on this day, their failure to understand their target would not just cost them their payday, it would serve as a global lesson in the vast and lethal difference between a ship and a warship. In a move of breathtaking audacity, they were about to willingly engage in a firefight with not one, but two of the most advanced surface combatants on the planet: the Arleigh Burke-class destroyer USS Gonzalez and the Ticonderoga-class guided missile cruiser USS Cape St. These vessels were the tip of the spear for Combined Task Force 150, an international Navy force created specifically to ensure maritime security and hunt the very men who were now sailing straight into their gunsights. This is the true story of how a routine patrol escalated into a naval gunfight and how a single well-placed bullet can end a battle. Why was this region so dangerous? The pirates' audacity made sense only when measured against the turmoil that bred it. By 2006, Somalia was a failed state. Decades of civil war had left it without a functioning government, a navy, or a coast guard. Its 2,000-mile coastline, the longest in mainland Africa, was a gaping wound, open to illegal fishing, arms smuggling, and something far more profitable: piracy. These weren't swashbucklers from a movie. They were desperate, often ruthless men organized by local warlords. Their business model was brutally simple: use small, fast skiffs launched from larger motherships to swarm and overwhelm slow-moving commercial vessels in the Gulf of Aden, one of the world's most crucial maritime superhighways. They would capture the ship and crew, sail it to a coastal hideout, and demand millions in ransom from the shipping companies. And for a while, it worked. They grew bolder, seizing UN aid ships and even attempting to take a cruise liner. In response, the world's navies formed Combined Task Force 150. Its mission? To patrol these waters, deter attacks, and reassure the global shipping industry. The American contribution to this force included vessels like the Gonzalez and Cape St. They weren't ordinary ships. They were floating platforms of 21st century warfare designed to fight nation-states, not fishermen with rusty Kalashnikovs. This colossal mismatch in capability was about to become terrifyingly clear. How does a warship find a pirate? The first sign of trouble appeared as a tiny symbol on a radar screen deep inside the Combat Information Center of the USS Gonzalez. 25 nautical miles off the coast, a contact was behaving erratically. It was a larger diesel-powered vessel towing two smaller boats, the classic pirate operational profile. But against them stood something very different. The USS Gonzalez, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, was already at work, a 9,000-ton workhorse bristling with missiles, torpedoes, and a 5-inch naval cannon. Its most powerful weapon in this moment was its brain, the Aegis Combat System, coordinated by the powerful ANSPY-1D radar. The operators in the CIC could track hundreds of targets simultaneously with pinpoint accuracy. To them, the pirates weren't a vague blip. They were a tracked, analyzed, and designated contact of interest. Gonzalez's commander alerted his counterparts on the USS Cape St. 40 miles away. As a Ticonderoga-class cruiser, the Cape St. was designed to serve as a command and control hub, shielding entire carrier strike groups. If the Gonzalez was a wolf, the Cape St. was the alpha, a floating fortress with even greater firepower and command abilities. But the American captains had a crucial decision to make: According to the strict rules of engagement, they couldn't fire on a vessel just for looking suspicious. They chose a strategy of patient, predatory observation. Instead of revealing themselves, they shadowed the pirate vessel through the remaining hours of darkness, using their advanced sensors to remain undetected. The pirates, blissfully unaware, sailed on, believing the vast dark ocean was their friend. They had no idea they were being stalked by two of the most lethal predators within it. The sun is rising. What happens now? As the first light of dawn painted the horizon, the time for observation was over. The order was given to launch the RHIBs, rigid-hulled inflatable boats. These weren't just dinghies, they were high-speed military-grade craft, each carrying a visit, board, search, and seizure team, or VBSS. These sailors are the Navy's equivalent of a SWAT team. Highly trained in close-quarters combat, they are armed with M4 rifles, sidearms, and shotguns, and clad in full tactical gear. Their mission was to approach the suspicious vessel, board it, and determine its intent. It was a standard procedure, executed countless times in training. The two American RHIBs sliced through the waves, closing the distance. But as they neared the pirate skiffs, the situation detonated. Without warning, the pirates opened fire. A hail of automatic weapons fire erupted from the skiffs, churning the water around the Navy boats. The pirates weren't intimidated. They were aggressive. The VBSS teams, trained for this exact scenario, immediately returned fire and began a tactical withdrawal towards the motherships. The investigation was over. A kinetic engagement had begun. But what happened next defied all logic. The pirates didn't flee from the warships that were now clearly visible on the horizon. They didn't retreat after firing on a U.S. Navy asset. They gave chase. Fueled by a fatal mix of arrogance and ignorance, the two small skiffs gunned their engines and raced after the withdrawing Navy boats. Then, they escalated their attack from a foolish mistake to a suicidal act. They turned their attention to the colossal gray hulls of the Gonzalez and the Cape St. George. They opened fire with everything they had, including rocket-propelled grenades, sending explosives arcing towards the American warships. They were actively attacking two of the most powerful naval vessels in the world. With small arms, how does a warship respond to an attack like this? Inside the CICs of both ships, the atmosphere remained chillingly calm. The pirates had now unequivocally demonstrated hostile intent. All preconditions of the rules of engagement had been met. The order from the captains was swift and clear. Engage with crew-served weapons. The pirates were so dangerously close that the ship's primary weapon systems, Tomahawk cruise missiles, standard surface-to-air missiles, and the 5-inch main guns were unusable. Firing a multi-million-dollar missile at a tiny skiff is not only overkill, it's tactically impractical at such short range. This battle would be decided by the oldest and most reliable tools of naval warfare: sailors, steel, and gunpowder. On the decks of the Gonzalez and the Cape St. George, U.S. Navy sailors manned their M2 50 caliber heavy machine guns. These weapons have been in service for nearly a century for one reason: they are devastatingly effective. Firing a round half an inch in diameter at over 2,900 feet per second, they can tear through engine blocks and hulls with ease. The sailors, products of thousands of hours of training, didn't spray and pray. They fired in controlled, disciplined bursts, their tracer rounds drawing visible lines of light across the water towards the attacking skiffs. The pirates' mothership was maneuvering frantically when a gunner aboard the USS Gonzalez made a calculated decision. He didn't just aim for the boat, he aimed for its heart. He saw a 55-gallon drum of fuel lashed to the deck, and he squeezed the trigger. A single 50 caliber tracer round, a bullet designed to burn brightly to show its trajectory, flew true. It slammed into the thin steel of the drum, and the world erupted. The 55 gallons of fuel detonated in a massive fireball. The pirate mothership was instantly engulfed in a raging inferno, the flames and black smoke billowing hundreds of feet into the morning sky. The boat, along with all their reserve fuel and supplies, was transformed into a floating pyre. For the pirates and the two small attack skiffs, the psychological shock was absolute. One moment they were the aggressors, high on adrenaline. The next, their mothership, their lifeline, had simply vanished in fire. The fight was instantly extinguished from their minds, replaced by the primal terror of being stranded and helpless. They immediately ceased firing, threw their weapons overboard, and put their hands in the air. The battle, which had begun with their foolish aggression, had been ended by a single, perfectly placed American bullet. The fight is over. What happens to the vanquished? With the surrender, the VBSS teams moved in again. This time, there was no investigation. It was an enforcement action. They skillfully maneuvered alongside the pirate skiffs. The sailors, operating with quiet, intimidating efficiency, boarded the boats, zip-tied the pirates, and secured the vessels. The entire operation was a textbook example of professional military dominance. The final tally was stark. 1 pirate was confirmed killed, his body recovered from a skiff. 12 more were captured, 5 of whom were suffering from various wounds sustained in the firefight. On the American side, 0 casualties. The hull of the USS Cape St. had been peppered with small arms fire, leaving minor superficial damage that served as a testament to the pirates' unbelievable audacity. What happened next showcased another, often unseen aspect of naval power. The Dutch fast combat support ship HNLMS Amsterdam, part of the same task force, was called upon. Its mission? To provide medical assistance to the wounded pirates. The very men who had just tried to kill American sailors were now being treated by NATO medics aboard a state-of-the-art warship. What's the final verdict for these pirates? The final chapter of this encounter is perhaps its most surprising. After capturing pirates in a clear act of aggression, the United States government chose not to prosecute them. After receiving advanced medical care, some aboard coalition warships for months, the surviving pirates were eventually repatriated back to Somalia. To an outsider, this might seem like a weak response, but in the world of international maritime law and military strategy, it was a calculated and powerful message. Prosecuting pirates captured in international waters is a logistical and legal nightmare, fraught with questions of jurisdiction and evidence. Instead of bogging down its legal system, the US and its allies delivered a much clearer verdict. The message was this: we are not your legal adversary. We are your military superior. Your actions do not rise to a level that requires the attention of our courts. We will meet your aggression. We will defeat you utterly on the water. We will disarm you, treat your wounds, and then send you home. This was a blunder born from ignorance, ending in a fireball at sea. But did you know that apart from pirates, the entire nation's navy once made the same mistake? If you want to know more about it, then the next video is a must-watch.